PR Connections Radio presents.
Hello, my name is Toy Moore, and I am your fabulous host on Talk with Toy. With my show, I plan on bringing on different people who are in different areas of their business. They're going to share information about their careers, how they got into the careers, what they like about their careers, how they can maybe help shine a light on someone who may be interested in what they're doing. I'll also be doing some segments going forward with my adult conversations. And with that, everybody wants to know about sex and relationships, so we're going to be addressing some of that. I also have a new book coming up pretty soon called Celebrity Life Behind the Scenes, where I will be featuring 50 celebrities that I have met. And I'll just be sharing a little bit of information on my thoughts about the celebrity and how I thought the interaction went. I'll also be having some pictures with it. So anyway, my whole purpose of my podcast is to be fun, to be entertaining, and for people to gain knowledge. So today, I would like to introduce my fabulous co-host guest, J Barrera. And with AJ, hi AJ, nice
Hey,
to
Toy,
see
thank you for having me.
Welcome on board.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a part of my Talks with Toy, and you are my first official live guest. Yay!
Yeah. And congratulations on your show too.
Thank you. I am so excited that you could be a part of my show.
Thank you
When I thought about you, me and you go back, God, we were saying maybe like 20 years.
Yeah.
I remember you doing a reading on me, and you said something that still sticks with me today. You said, my father comes to me as a dragonfly and not as a butterfly. And that was so significant to me because my dad used to paint butterflies all the time. Right. So when you said that, I was like, he's real. Right. And you said some other things too, but that one is the one that to this day, it stands out. And I see a dragonfly every summer in my backyard on my pond. And he's a big red dragonfly. And I've never seen a big red one before. And I remember one time you called me and you were like, do you see dragonflies at all? Because I keep dreaming about dragonflies, and you're the only person I could think of that's connected with dragonflies. And I was like, yeah, I did. I was seeing like blue dragonflies and little brown ones, little small ones, but only the one red one. And so when I see the red one, I say, hi, Dad, how you doing? And then when I seen the other smaller ones, now I'm like, okay, that's my grandmother, then my grandfather, and my uncles.
The whole family reunion that's happening.
The whole family reunion, yeah. And it was so funny because we talked afterwards, and you were like, after you revealed that to me, you said you didn't have the dreams anymore. So you gave the message to the right person. So so thank you for being a part of my first live podcast. I wanted to invite you because I wanted to do something a little different and a little bit outside the box than what normally would happen. Of course, we want to get into your career, what you like about it, what's your thoughts about it, and to shed some light on especially people who are non-believers. And you can shed light on why people are non-believers and then why those are believers, or the difference in what you do versus, say, a psychic who people may not believe in, or people feel like they're not a part of godly image or godly words. Me personally, I believe that God gave the gift of prophecy to people. And I believe a person like yourself is a prophet from God. So can you start off by telling us a little bit about your history first, and then we'll get into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And and also I want to backtrack on something too with your dragonflies. People have their own interpretation of like what their symbolism of their loved ones are. So in those moments with your dragonflies, even if it's like, say, you're traveling somewhere and you see this dragonfly, this red one or the blue one, it could just be a little hello from heaven. So I want people to recognize those signs and signals. So when you do receive them, anyone that's watching, anyone that receives them, again, whatever you associate or what makes sense to you, that, hey, my level might come through as a a lizard or by a bee or whatever it is, those are your personal connections. So that's something that no one can take away from you, not even myself as a medium. So to go back into kind of the history of my work, it's quite interesting because I wasn't like, planning to be a psychic or a medium. No one plans to do this, to be frank. It was more so curiosity than anything. I grew up in a very simple life, with brothers and sisters, my mom and dad in a small suburban city in Heights, California. So it was nothing to be elaborate about. And I wasn't, really looking to, dabble in this work. It was kind of more so curiosity than anything else. Like I did not have like a near death experience that caused me to have these abilities or to see spirits or sense things. I wasn't really trying to like go down that road. It was more so like I was watching television shows at a young age where it was like I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, and then there was like the X Files and the and all these different television shows that actually have like magical stuff and mystical and ghost and paranormal and all UFOs and all this bizarre stuff. So I was always fascinated by that, the occult, if you will, or the new age, depending what you want to call it, spiritual now. So for me, it was more so curiosity. So then there was television shows that had like certain psychics and mediums on, like Sally Jesse Raphael, Ricky Lake, Jenny Jones, Maury, Montel. Like Montel was always known for having Sylvia Brown. So for me, it was kind of like, these people on television show, these people that predict the future and they talk to the dead, they make it all up and they're faking this, or they plant people in the audience and so on and so forth. Like I thought that was like all honestly kind of like BS. Like there was no way people can predict the future or talk to the dead and so on and so forth. So I truly went on my own journey of trying to understand the work itself. So it was by reading books, like they didn't have many books in high school and junior high school about New Age or the occult. And if they did, it was a small little section, like maybe like 20 books, if that. So for me, it was really trying to understand the process and understand the work. And the more that I started researching and understanding and reading, the more that I realized that this was an innate ability. This was an ability that I had. Like, I do believe in God. I do believe, in a higher power. I do believe in spirituality and so on and so forth. And I do believe that it comes from my religious point of view as from God. But we also do all have the ability to do this work as well. We all may not be mediums, but we all can tap into intuition, our gut feeling, those gut impressions. So if we recognize it and pay attention to it, and we start working with our mediumstic abilities, we're going to be able to do this. We're all not going to be these mediums, but it's about making your own personal connection. And for me, it was making a deeper connection. I was like a sponge. I wanted to absorb and take everything in. And even if it did not make sense to me, I try to understand it. And that's kind of like the backstory of like how I kind of really got into this. It wasn't really, again, a near-death experience. It wasn't that I saw spirit at the end of my bed or so on and so forth. It was more so curiosity that brought me onto this path.
Okay. All right. And I know, like I said, me and you've known each other you've been on this journey for 22 years. And so me and you have known each other close to the 20 years.
Right.
And I remember you just getting started and your desire and the fire in you to do it, and that was when you were not such a big deal like you are now, and you were able to come to people's houses and to do readings. Now we're lucky if we get you on screen. I think you told me right now you're booked out until June.
Yeah, June, July is where I'm booked.
Can I get a reading? I got a lot of stuff going on now. And through the show, if you see anything going on with me, please let me know.
Absolutely.
Let me know if I'm on the right path on what I'm doing.
I'm blessed to be doing this work, because even though I do this, like, as, a livelihood, this is my job. I used to work in accounting and do all that stuff before I started doing this full time. And most people think like, oh, why do you charge? It comes from God. And why do you do this? Like, this is my livelihood. Like, this is what I do. And people get upset because I got to pay a mortgage. I got to pay this. I got to do this. I'm just like everyone else. But I try to use the example with people too, is that, think of like musicians. They have a gift of singing or playing the guitar or this and that. And you pay money to go see them in concert. You pay money for their merchandise. What's the difference in the purpose of doing that? You know what I mean? So what I mean? It's an exchange of energy.
Exactly.
It's an exchange of energy. And I think people need to understand like how we work and how mediums work and psychics work, because people watch things on television shows and things of that nature and movies, and they think it's exactly the same way. They think it's like, oh, why hasn't any psychic won the lottery or this and that? It's not for our use. You know what I mean? It's not for that. Kind of think of us as like the tool in the tool shed. We're here to assist people and how people navigate through the grieving process. We may not be able to fix them, but we can help bring some healing to them.
Right. So can you explain how people who are non-believers what is something that you tell those people, or how do you shed a light on the non-believers?
Yeah, I'm okay with it because I wasn't a big believer in this work at all whatsoever. So I'm not going to shove my belief, my religion, or my understanding about this work to make you a believer. That is not
Mhm.
my job or any medium's job. It's just
Okay.
for us to plant that seed as if there's a possibility for you to open up the door of maybe there is something more to this physical realm. And I do have a lot of skeptics. I've had a lot of interviews done, in newspapers. When
Mhm.
newspapers were like a big thing, and so or digital stuff, where skeptics would sit in front of me and they would want me to interview them or read for them. And
Mhm.
sometimes they create that blockage, but most of the time, if you're
Right.
just open and receptive, that
Right.
medium will be able to bridge that connection. But if you have an individual that's a cynic, which is different than a skeptic, or they are very adamant, they want you to say something very specific. So if I say, hey,
Right.
you today you spilled a bowl of ice cream on the floor today, and they're like,
Right.
nope, it was actually a bowl of milk. So because I didn't say ice cream, I'm wrong. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So in a
Right.
way, it's very difficult to navigate those people, but I want people to
Right.
kind of go on their own journey of like
Right.
finding spirituality, finding mediums, finding intuitives. And don't get me
Right.
wrong, there are people out there that are claim to be mediums and psychics that actually are bringing out false information or misleading
Right.
information or
Right.
teaching people the wrong thing.
Right.
Obviously, my work. I don't post a lot about my readings. It's not really about the readings. I love
Right.
doing the connections, but what I love posting about is the awareness in teaching people how
Okay.
any individual can bridge their own connection with their own loved ones in the afterlife.
Okay. So can you explain what is the difference between, I know you title yourself as a psychic medium. What is the difference between the two, and how do you join them together?
Yeah, so there are mediums which physically, and spiritually have one foot in the physical world and one foot in the afterlife, and they solely
Okay.
connect with loved ones who have passed on with the spirit realm. With a
Okay.
psychic, they use like tarot cards, they predict the future, they can tell you what's going on, see auras, use different tools to kind of work with energy or crystals and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
So all
Hmm.
mediums are psychic, but not all psychic are mediums. So it's an
Hmm.
ability that you have to learn to develop mediumistic abilities. And so not everyone again is a medium, but we're all psychic. We're all intuitive. We all have this ability. If you want to call it psychic, if you want to call it intuition, or you want to call it a gut feeling, we all have that ability. It's how we tap into it and how we developed. I've been developing my work for over 22 years as a medium, psychic medium. So, and I will never be 100% correct. But, as for me, I'm a psychic medium because I do talk about, you know, past, present, future of what's going on in a personal life. I can talk about business moves, careers, and things of that nature. But also, I bridge that connection with those who passed on in the afterlife. So that is a psychic medium.
Okay. So with your ability, are you able to turn it on and turn it off, or
Oh,
can you
thank
like
God, yes.
walk past somebody and be like, where you see something or you feel something with that
Right.
individual, and would you, if you're walking and down the street, would you stop that person and tell them, or would you hesitate from doing that?
Yeah, so for me, there is an on and off switch, just like everyone else. Just think
Okay.
about when you clock in and clock out for work. I do the
Yes.
same thing. So when I'm
Okay.
working with clients, I clock in, I turn myself on. When I'm done with my readings for the day, I turn it off and I shut down. So it's not like I'm at the grocery store and I have like someone's dead grandmother with them. You know what I mean? And saying I have to, tell them, hey, someone's here for you.
Mhm.
One, it's not ethical. It's not the right thing to do. Maybe
Right.
back then when I was like maybe in my early teens, I would probably see things and tell people things because I did not really
Yes.
understand this work and did not know how to control it and really
Okay.
navigate the physical realm and the spirit realm together. But over time, I finally learned how to make that connection, and being respectful at the same time. So very rarely I'll get like spirit that will nudge me to get a message across to someone out in public, but because I'm turned off, usually that doesn't happen. Very rarely. But again, if it happens, it happens. But I don't want to disrespect, or I will never kind of like invade someone's privacy. You know what I mean? So you won't see me kind of like, needing to go give a message to someone unless I have to give it when I'm in an open setting or when someone's at an event where they're able to receive that message.
Right. Now, tell me, is your gift, is that a hereditary thing, or where did it come from, do you think? I mean, did your parents or your siblings have it, the capability that you have, or
Yeah,
did
I
you
think
just get it more?
yeah, for me, like I mentioned, I grew up Catholic. I still believe in God, so I do believe it comes from a higher power. But also, that's part of
Hmm.
my spirituality, my belief.
Hmm.
As a medium, as a spiritualist, as someone that does this work, again, I see it as someone that can naturally tap into this ability. So I think it's more so a natural thing, something that I've developed over the years. So I think it's a little bit of both. If you want to look at it as a religious point of view, or if you want to look at it as kind of like a way to develop your ability, I think it's a little bit of both, where I do believe it came from, me having the ability and the urge to really do this work. Again, it was more so curiosity that allowed me to open up the door. And I really, believe in God and the higher power. Like I told him, like, if you want me to do this work, like I remember quitting my job doing the accounting work when I was, God, I mean, in my 20s or early 20s.
Mhm.
And I remember telling God, and I said, you know what, if I'm supposed to be doing this work, I just want you to open up the doors, and I want you to open
Yes.
up the doors, and I will walk through them. And that has been
Okay.
my agreement since that day. And he's been opening up doors for me for the last 22 years for allowing me to do this work, to, be of service to people. That's what this work is all about, is about healing people and bringing that awareness, because again, not everyone will have the same experience with every medium. Some people will have different
Right.
experiences, but for me, it was just more so, again, navigating that journey, spiritually speaking.
Okay. And when you said you started feeling the urges to see the dead, or experience the different intuitions, as we call it, a lot of times as a child, a young boy, child,
Right.
did your parents encourage it? Did they try to tell you you were crazy, don't believe all of that? How did your parents and your siblings handle it?
Oh my
What were their
God.
thoughts when you first started coming to who you are
Yeah.
now?
So, like as growing up, being Hispanic, living, from, very devout Catholic family, and my grandparents on both sides of my family were very religious. So religion was a big thing. So for me, kind of like watching these television shows of like, psychics and mediums on these talk shows and so on and so forth at a young age, it was kind of very taboo even to talk about it. So I couldn't really talk about this to my mom or my dad or really any of my family members,
Oh,
because they would
okay.
think I was freaking crazy, or I'm doing the devil's work, or I'm not working
You're
with
right,
God, and
right,
this and that.
right,
And don't
right.
get me wrong, I was very much involved in my youth ministries, like being
Yes.
involved with youth retreats and all that stuff. So I couldn't even really talk about what I did around church and my friends and so on and so forth. So it was kind of like, being hidden, this ability, and it, kind of pushing it down. So I really couldn't really talk about my work to anyone unless
Yes.
certain people knew. So for me, I remember telling my parents. My mom kind of knew, like I was like, I love this stuff. I love the talk shows. Anytime
Mhm.
Sylvia Brown or any like James Van Prague, John Edward, Kenny Kingston, like these were kind of like the main people. And Van Prague is still a main medium, an amazing medium. You have Tyler Henry now. You have like
Mhm.
John Edward, who's still doing this work. Like there are amazing mediums that are out there that are still educating people. And these are
Mhm.
individuals that I watch on television shows. My mom would call me and say, "Hey, don't tell your dad, but so and so is on television and they're doing an interview and this and that." And so my mom would allow me to, watch these television interviews
Yes,
and watch these
yes.
mediums read for people. But I remember when I first started doing this work professionally, publicly, having a
Mhm.
website, I used to have my business telephone line at 18 years old in my bedroom. And people were calling
Okay.
in for readings, and I was doing phone readings at 18 years old. And this is before I started doing my radio shows. I was signed with the Clear Channel, which is now iHeart. I was with them for like 3 or 4 years on Coast 103.5 and K Big, which is now my FM. And I was doing readings live on the radio from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. or 7 p.m. to midnight. It was called
Okay.
Angels in Waiting. And that's
Okay.
how my career started in that work. And I remember telling my dad. My dad had
Uh-huh.
no idea what a medium was. And I remember telling my
Okay.
dad, I said, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to be on the radio on Coast 103.5 from 7 to midnight. I'm going to be live doing readings." He goes, "Readings?" But he goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I told him I'm a medium." He goes, He goes, like a median, like on the freeway? And I like, "No, like a psychic medium." And he had
Uh-huh.
no idea what the heck that was. And he was like, "Sure, sure, sure, whatever." When they heard me
Mhm.
live, I remember my parents texting me like within the first couple minutes. And I remember looking at my phone during the commercial break, and my parents texted me. He's like, "Oh my God, congratulations!" Like da da da. Like it was just like they were in awe because they never
Yeah.
watched my work, they never saw my work, they didn't have
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
of it. But to read from people from all around the U.S., Kansas,
Yes.
Oregon, wherever it is, like they were calling on the phone lines trying to bridge that connection with their loved ones, and that's how I started, and that's how my parents found out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Because I know that you have had your own TV show or
Yep.
shows and
Yeah.
radio. And so, I mean, what do you like the best about, say, TV versus live?
Oh, you know what? I love doing live, like live radio. I love doing live radio because like anything can happen, anything can go wrong, and anything can happen in those moments, spiritually speaking. And I love live radio because you don't have to worry about editing anything out or this and that. And so there are going to be no's, and that's what I try to tell people when I do this work. And with any
Mhm.
medium, there will be no's in a reading. There will be like it doesn't resonate, it doesn't make sense, and that's okay. I or any other medium will never be 100% correct, but I love
Right,
doing television. I love doing television because you can witness it like in person or watch it on
right,
your television show or on the YouTube or whatever it is.
right.
But in some ways, I think for me, radio became the best medium for me as a medium because I
Okay.
wasn't able to see the person. I wasn't
Oh,
reading body language. I wasn't able to see a person, this and that. So for me, it made it my ability stronger and better at what I do because there wasn't any claims I was reading bodies, language, or I was talking to people and
right,
things of that nature what
right.
people would claim. But for me, it made me a better medium doing radio. And I
Now,
s- and
how
I still do radio. Like I still do a ton of radio, a ton of press, not just
okay.
here in California, but all over. So I'm blessed to still do this.
Because I know that you do a lot of your readings just like we're talking
Yep.
now on Zoom or whatever. And so, and also with that saying with that with radio, how are you able to tune in someone if they're not physically in your presence? I can understand if somebody's in your presence, maybe you read them, you feel their into the intuition on a more deeper, closer level. How are you able to do
Yeah.
that when you're not right there with that person?
That's a great question, and this is like the misconception that a lot of people think. A lot of people think that you need to be sitting in front of a medium in the same room
Yes,
with a medium for them to make
yes,
a connection. That is not the
right.
case. What a medium tunes into is to an individual's vibration, their energy, which
Okay,
how I tune in is through your voice. So when a
okay,
client speaks to me over, say an Instagram live or TikTok live when I do readings
yes.
or and I pull people up and I bridge a connection for them. You know what I mean? I'm not tuning into them. I'm tuning into their voice, that energy. And
Oh,
what happens
okay,
is that I speed up my energy, spirit lowers down theirs, and there's a connection and there's a bridge, and that's what
ah,
happens there. So that's where the mediumistic ability happens in that very moment. So I don't need to be in the same room. Not every medium. Some mediums prefer to have the client in person. I've
okay.
specifically worked virtually, remotely through Zoom. All my readings are done through Zoom. I don't do any in
Mhm.
person readings. I haven't done any in person readings for like maybe 7 years. So it's been a
Oh,
long
okay,
time. So I just completely
okay.
stopped doing that because I could read for people who are in New York, who are in India, or the Philippines. I read for a lot of people in the Philippines. I read for a lot of people all over, like internationally, Australia, all over. So again, you don't need to be in the same room with the medium. It's just the medium needs to be um, ethical, and they need to be educated in the work, and not saying like you have to be in the same room, you have to do this, you have to do that. Let the medium do their job. If they know how to do what they're doing, they can navigate over the telephone or over Zoom virtually.
So when you say you're reading someone, that's reading their
Energy.
the the
Yeah.
energy
Yeah,
through
and that
okay,
energy
through
could
their
be so.
voice.
Yeah, and that voice is what I'm tapping into. So when I tap into
Okay,
that vibration, it's what I'm bringing through, it's what I'm pulling through basically. And that could be mediumistically, meaning connecting with their loved ones. And that could
okay.
be like that person could have 10 different loved ones that may come through in a reading, or one or two,
Mhm,
depending on their loss. Or two, I
mhm,
might be tapping into their energy about their personal life, their business, their career. So it just really
okay,
depends on what the client is searching or looking for. A lot of
okay.
people sit in front of me not really to connect with loved ones. It's actually about business advice or looking about love, their health, their condition, or just in general guidance, like life guidance. And that's what I do. I
Mhm.
focus on both.
Because I noticed that I watch Tyler sometime on
Yeah.
TV, and I notice that he always likes a piece of something that he
Oh,
can
yeah.
hold on to feel the energy of a loved one that someone wants to
Yep.
read. So you don't need that, or does
No.
something like that help, or is that just individual mediums or psychics on what
Yeah.
they do to bring out the gift that they have?
Correct. Yeah, because every medium works differently. Some might be clairvoyant, some might be clairaudient, where they hear things. Some might be clairsentient, where they actually feel the emotion, feel the energy. It just
Mhm,
really depends. Like with Tyler, he's a great
mhm,
medium. He's a friend of mine, so he's a great guy. I wouldn't say my BFF, but he's a colleague of mine, and he's a great individual, great person, a phenomenal medium as well. And
yes.
what he does. There's two things that he does that which most people do know or don't know. So when he's holding onto an object, that is called psychometry. That is an
Oh,
energy that that individual had, meaning that person that was
okay.
living used to wear all the time. So if they used to wear that wedding ring, what Tyler is tapping into is to that person's energy, that vibration of that
Okay.
person who's passed on. He also
Okay.
uses automatic writing. So when you see him scribbling and writing, that is
Yes.
automatic
Yes.
writing, or in psychology, they call it free association writing. So that is kind of like what we call kind of like a distraction, but also messages. So for him, his mind is distracted and he's just automatic writing and bringing through all this information. From time to
Okay.
time, certain mediums will actually have automatic writing where they actually will have full on photos, sentences, and names and dates written down. But some will call it just a distraction. I think it's a little bit of both for Tyler, where it becomes a distraction, but also information that he pulls through in those readings as well.
Oh, okay. All right. So tell us something that on a reading that you've had that just blew your mind, something that, has been totally off the off the roster from what maybe a regular reading or a normal reading would be. Was something that you
I
still remember from
I'm
now?
just trying to think that there were so many different things that happened. Okay, this I haven't posted a video of this because I don't share a lot of my readings, but a lot of people say like post a lot of your readings on your TikTok, on your Instagram,
Yeah.
and this and
Yeah.
that. So I
Yeah.
might start posting more this year rather than just all my little
Yes.
awareness. But this reading is already put together. It's already kind of like it's from one of my live online group events, and I was
Okay.
reading for this girl whose mother was coming through, and I said, "Hey, can you unmute yourself? I got your mom here that's coming through," and she's telling me to talk about like I said, by any chance, do you have any ties to like Alaska or Antarctica or something like that? And she starts laughing. She goes, "What?" She goes like, "No," and I go, your mom is showing me, I don't know how young or how old you are. And I told the girl, because this is an old reference, what I'm about to say. I said, I don't know if you know who Chili Willy is, but he's a penguin with a little striped cap and this and that. And he, cartoon character. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, I have a photo of my mom in a Chili Willy frame and she loved Chili Willy. And this was just a couple weeks ago. So the next day, she said she was going to the grocery store and she happened to look down in the parking lot and there was a penguin napkin on the floor. So for that was her mom's sign validating that her soul and spirit was with her, not only then, but in that very moment. So something so bizarre will make complete sense to the client. I don't know what the meaning is, but I will always give what I get. But that is something so bizarre, but something so magical. She even sent my office the photos of everything that happened within that time frame. So again, it just shows that love never dies.
So say, for instance, if you get a vision or a intuition or your spirit feels something negative going on with someone or coming up, do you reveal that or do you
Yeah.
kind of keep that stuff to yourself?
Absolutely not. I always believe if something is coming through in a reading, the client needs to understand it because I'm not here about the birds, butterflies, and the fluff and stuff. I tell like it is. I don't censor anything unless I'm in a public setting or I'm doing like my large events in person
Yes.
where there's like 500 people or 200 people in an audience. I have to be respectful, but I will kind of like be direct, but not in a way, but in a way that they understand, but also being respectful at the same time, if that makes sense. So for me, if there's something that came through in a reading on a one-on-one reading with a client, I will give everything that comes through. If it's health, business, relationship, all that stuff, I don't censor anything. I bring through everything that I possibly can because I do believe that we need to hear everything again that comes through in a reading.
So when you're doing your live audiences, that may be 300 or 500 people, which congratulations on that. Do you tap into one person at a time, or do all the spirits come at you, or does someone stand up and say, I want to know, or how do you focus that when you have so many different spirits, so many different people around you? How do you tap into one individual person?
Yeah, so I don't pick and choose who I read for. It doesn't matter where you sit in the room. You can be
Okay.
sitting, in the very back row. You can be sitting in the first, middle row, like wherever you sit. Your loved ones will find a way to get me to you and to get their message
Okay.
across. You can be
Okay.
sitting in a balcony. I mean, I was just at a theater and there were people sitting in the balcony. I didn't read anyone in front of me, anyone in the bottom balcony. Bottom seating, excuse me. It was everyone in the balcony that I was reading for. It was like boom, boom, boom. And so again, they will get me to the right person. The way that works is that again, I don't pick and choose. I'm not kind of like feeling like what I'm basically doing is kind of like allowing myself to open up. So I ground myself, I pray, I meditate, and then I open up myself. And then when I go on stage, I kind of do my speech. I educate people about the process, about the work and how I work and what's going to happen here tonight, and making sure people are prepared what they're going into, because oftentimes people are being dragged to this event by their husband or their wife or their friend and this and that, and they don't believe in it, or they don't, they are not aware of it or what's happening here. And oftentimes those are the individuals that actually get the readings, that are people that are skeptical or not a believer, or they feel like that I've never got a reading before, I want to experience something like that. And oftentimes those are the people that receive those readings. But I also do believe that our loved ones in heaven, in the afterlife, they know what messages we need to hear. And oftentimes when I do my group events, either in person or online, there's a, what do you call them? A parallel. There's a theme. There's messages that everyone walks away with, meaning that, oh, that sounds like my mom that passed away. Like, oh, everything that this person received from me as a medium makes sense to them. So there may be parallel messages for certain individuals. But the way that spirit works with me is kind of think about it like, whoever energy is the loudest for me and the strongest is going to be their way coming through, meaning from the afterlife. It's nothing to do with really the people in the audience. It's like how they want to come through. So if they use certain references, certain symbols, sometimes the most bizarre things will get me to the right person. And sometimes that's the way spirit realm works with me to get the message across to the person in the audience. So I would say majority of the time, I would say about 90% of the time, if I'm in a room of 500 people, I'm on stage, I can say, hey, I'm in this general section, like say 5 rows back, 3 rows in, or this, the last 5 rows here. Like, this is where I'm at. I got dad here that's coming through and blah, blah, blah. And I will give all that information. Sure enough, the person will stand up. Yep, that's for me. I got, dad's coming through. So again, I've learned how to kind of like navigate and sense the energy. Don't get me wrong. There are times where I may not know where I'm at in the room, or I may have a general idea, say like I might actually be here, and I might actually be like, say, 2 rows behind that person, and it's not actually the person in front of them. But usually it's more of a feeling. It comes from my solar plexus, my gut, that pulls me to that person, and that's what bridges that connection to that person in spirit.
Okay. So do you prefer to do like one-on-one readings, or do you enjoy more doing group readings?
Oh my God. I love doing group readings, audience readings. I prefer that. Like, even my group readings are pretty large online. So I still I wouldn't say large, but they're a lot smaller than most mediums. Most mediums will do like 200 people online, 100 people online. I still keep it a little bit more intimate, even online, but it's for a group of different people that are coming together. But my in-person readings that I do for my live events, I love doing those as well. I prefer teaching and doing the live events. I just love them. It's a different energy. It's like I'm on a high when I do them, especially when I walk off stage. It's like I'm exhausted and tired, but at the same time, I'm like, wow, that was such a fun, thrilling experience to see how spirit works, even with me, because it's not about me that I'm like in awe with. It's how spirit works and how it moves throughout the room and brings healing to many different people in the room as well.
So do you have like, say, regular clients that want you to guide them through their life? I know you have people who ask you for lottery numbers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But do you have regular people? You hear some people that they use a psychic or a medium to help them in their day-to-day or their week-to-week or month-to-month to live their life. So do you have people like that? And are you able to do that to help them live a better or a more open life? Or
so for me, I don't recommend people to, I guess, rely on a psychic, if that makes sense. Even though like this is what I do, this is my livelihood and so on and so forth. But I do have people that will do like readings, like say once a year. You know what I mean? And that's because usually I'm booked out 6 to 7 months out in a year anyway. So it's kind of like,
I'm trying to get in now.
Yeah, so some people will like wait for it and book it and this and that. So it's kind of like one of those moments. So they're there for different reasons. The first initial reading could be that they merely want me to focus on connecting with loved ones. Then the other reading would be like they really want me to focus on not connecting with loved ones. They want to focus on guidance. But I feel like there are, I want to say regular people, but there are people that I see maybe I would say once a year or once every year and a half, 2 years, that I do see in that time period that will sit with me. And that's merely, again, for guidance or connected with loved ones. So it really depends, but it's not going to be the same reading for the person, meaning that because they're evolving, their life has changed within that year and a half. So a lot of things are going to come through in that reading to talk about what has happened in that past, what's happening in the current moment, and what's the projection for their future in the next year, maybe 6 months or 9 months down the road. So that energy will change as well. Like when a psychic brings through information, a psychic medium, What we say is never engraved in stone. So so things can change because the
Right.
route will change as well as your route will change as you navigate through life.
Right. So, say for instance, if someone was interested in the field that you're in, and they feel like they have that gift, as you did as a young boy,
Yeah.
whatever, what would you tell them how they can exercise to become greater in their gift that they have, or
Yeah.
you know?
So, I think this goes for anyone who's just curious, want to develop, or maybe interested into astrology, numerology, psychic,
Mhm.
mediumship development, any of that stuff. One, read. If it's going to be physical books, Kindles, things that research, read everything that you possibly can. Try to absorb everything you possibly can. That's one thing. Two,
Mhm.
take classes, take workshops, either in person or
Mhm.
online. Start doing that because that's going to help build your vibration, but also help you navigate in a way that you can understand like what's right, what's wrong. Because there are bad things that people do that are psychic mediums that actually are causing more harm than actually providing
Right.
healing. So I think in
Right.
some ways,
Right.
if you understand the foundations of psychic mediumship, it would help you build that foundation so you can
Right.
evolve and
Right.
grow. Like, taking a workshop or taking a class is not going to make you a psychic medium overnight. It's going to take
Okay.
perhaps, several months, several weeks, or several years, depending on how
Okay.
much potential that you put into it and how much energy you
Okay.
put into that to
Okay.
help yourself grow and understand. Because what an individual needs to do is learning all the, good, bad, and the ugly between this work. And
Mhm.
there's a way that a person needs to navigate, even learning how to read. They have to accept that they can and will be wrong. Like they would have
Okay.
to accept that. I accept it. I understand that. Like, again, I've been doing this work for a little bit over 22 years, and I know I can and will be wrong. And I always tell people
Right.
that I will never be 100% correct, but
Right.
I will
Right.
always get what I get in a reading, even if it does not make sense to me or to the client. Typically, what happens is that people forget the information, or that doesn't resonate, or it's third party information. But
Mhm.
anyone that is doing this or navigating through this field and wants to learn about it, be open, receptive, ground yourself, and protect yourself. Know it comes from God. Know it comes from good light.
I know you used to give classes to help people to tap into their psychic energy. Do you still do the classes?
I have not taught classes for like maybe 2 years, 2 to 3 years, maybe. I just don't have the time because majority of the time I would do them on the weekends,
Okay.
and I my weekends are the first to get booked up in my calendar with clients, so it's hard for me to put on a 6 8 hour day course.
Yeah.
Even throughout the week, it's hard for me to do it because by the time I'm done doing my readings throughout the week, then I would have
Right.
to people get off work at like 5 or 6 o'clock. I would have to start
Right.
those classes at 7. Those are
Yeah.
long days for me as well. So it's hard for me to do that. But I love teaching. I love doing this work, which is why I started doing a lot of these videos on Instagram and TikTok and putting out like educational videos, the how to, let me show you how,
Okay.
like all that stuff,
Okay.
because they're
Okay.
little, clips of what I try to teach people, but in a very straightforward way without all the woo woo stuff.
I remember years ago, someone was offering a class or something, and I thought about doing it because, as you say, most of us do have intuition or we have psychic powers. And there's been some things that I have experienced in my past that I just never really put the energy to really do it on a more serious basis. But I
Right.
have had some things that I have tapped into, and sometimes it scares me, and so especially if it's not a good thing. But
Right.
I've learned to say it when I feel certain ways about an energy that I receive. At first, I wouldn't say anything, because you don't know how the other person's going to receive it. But
Right.
then it came to me through God, just like share it with the person, because maybe you need to tell them to be careful or to
Right.
watch out or something. It can be not that it's going to happen, but
Right.
maybe if you know that something is in the air to possibly happen, maybe they can avoid it. So, I tried to learn that. But when it came to possibly taking the class, I was like, nope, because I don't want to be around nobody who has some negative satanic energy, because I grew up in the Church of God in Christ, and we know the devil is a lie. And so I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna have nobody's bad spirit jumping into me. So
Right.
I always stayed away from people who were offering classes. But
Right.
it's interesting to be able to tap into your own energy, even if it's just for your own personal growth. or
No,
whatever.
absolutely, because I think we need to kind of like learn how to work with ourselves first. I think we need to learn how to
Mm-hmm.
work with our understanding ourselves, our own abilities. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
again, we all have different abilities. Like with me, I'm clairvoyant, where I see things either subjectively or objectively, meaning like I'll see it as a thought in my head, or I'll see pictures being flashed in front of me, or
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned, I'm clairaudient, where I'll hear things either as a thought or as out loud, or I'll feel things. So if someone passed with a heart attack, I'll feel a pain in my chest. If someone passed with something that's like a stroke or aneurysm, I'll feel something going to my head. So it just really depends on how spirit is giving me that information. Sometimes they show it to me, they make me feel it, or they're giving it to me in a different way. So it's a really kind of learning a new language, if you will, but also it's your own
Okay.
interpretation, because my meanings will never mean the same to you. You know what I mean? So it's building that vocabulary, that frame of reference. So I think we all should learn how to kind of go within and start learning
Mm-hmm.
how to meditate or ground or protect yourself. Like think of prayer. Prayer is a form of meditation. Music is a
Yes.
form of meditation. Like people don't
Right.
understand that. People
Right.
think it's, meditation is about sitting on the floor and saying Om. That's not it. Meditation could
Right.
just be like praying to God, or just listening to your
Right.
favorite country
Right.
artist or musician or whatever that looks
Right.
like. That is a form of
Right.
meditation, because you're putting that energy into that song or into that prayer or into that word. So however that looks like to you, and whatever word makes sense to you, that is your form of meditation.
So a person, say, who is a tarot card reader, is that just a different avenue of a psychic medium,
That's
or
actually a psychic. So a tarot card reader is like a psychic. They're telling about
okay,
the past, present, and future, and so on and so forth. For many years, I would say for many years, but from my 6th grade to 8th grade, I used to read the tarot cards. I used to read
okay,
tarot all the time for those 3 years. I would tell people what was going on. I would tell people what was happening with their family or things of that nature. So in junior high school and high school, I was reading those cards. So for me, I was not the popular kid at all whatsoever. I think people were freaked out, like
okay,
he's a weirdo, this and that, and so on and so forth. So
right,
I
right,
was by any means not popular, and I always joke around with people telling that story because it's the honest truth. But for me, there wasn't any of the mediumistic stuff, like nothing about the dead, nothing about people who passed on would
okay,
come through. It was just about the cards, and the cards that I used to work with is actually the writer's deck. So it was that type of deck, and which actually still have my deck from like being,
okay,
yeah, all torn up and everything. Like it's just,
okay,
these are the cards that I used to use, and so it was something that I still have. I don't again read these cards, but it's
yeah.
something that helped me open up and develop this ability.
So, say for instance, horoscopes and birthdays and stuff. For those are just another form of an energy coming
Yeah,
out, or
yeah,
do
it's another
people, when it's their birthday or their horoscopes and stuff, are those pretty real?
Yeah, astrology. I'm not an expert with astrology. I was
Mm-hmm.
a big believer into, I guess, knowing it until I got wiser with the understanding with it. But I totally believe in astrology. I totally believe in numerology. I actually used to teach numerology classes. So numbers
Okay.
is a vibration. It's an energy. It's a science of numbers. And I believe in astrology. And when we talk about astrology, we're talking about like really the alignments, the time, and so on and so forth. Not just like the horoscopes in your newspaper. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Right.
want people to live their life by
Right.
horoscopes. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like what I
Right.
don't want you to do. But
Right.
astrology, if you get your natal chart and all that stuff, like it's pretty, at least from my experience,
Uh-huh.
it's pretty damn accurate. Like honestly, it's
Okay.
pretty accurate for me, and
Okay.
I really have to say that. And it can also predict certain things that happen in the world, society, and things of that nature. So I'm a big believer that if you are a believer in astrology, I would
Mhm.
recommend looking into certain people that can teach the course or maybe do your charts. There are so many people out there that do astrology, but astrology, numerology, all that stuff, I'm a firm believer in that. Absolutely.
And when you talk about future or whatever, I know you've done some readings where people have asked, do you have any psychic vision of what's coming up in, say, 2025? I mean, any predictions that you may have?
Right. I honestly I don't do predictions.
Oh,
I don't.
okay.
I don't. A lot of people would ask me to do predictions. They would have me like they would want me on their show specifically to do predictions, like say for 2024.
Yeah,
Can you give us
yes.
predictions for 2025? And I'm like, nope, I won't do it. I will tell people like you can go to other psychics, but that's not me. Like I don't like
Okay.
doing predictions. I don't like doing that. What I do bring up though in readings are like projections, which are kind of like predictions,
Okay.
which is about the person's life. So if I have a projection saying like, "Hey, I see you moving by this time frame," and the person's like, "No, no plans moving. I'm not moving," blah blah, and then by that time frame, they are moving. So again, it's
Okay.
not even in their mind, but when it happens
Yes,
because it's
yes,
part of that
yes.
energy that they're already projecting
Right.
in
Okay.
that reading. So even though there's nothing really planned, it's like how the stars are navigating the things here in the physical realm and spiritually speaking. But I don't do predictions. I mean, I've had things happen for me where I will think about something and it will
Okay.
happen. So, and
Okay.
my wife, obviously, my wife Jennifer, and when it goes for both of us, like we always say, don't say it because it's going to happen. So I say, is it good? Is it bad? And it's whatever it is, we put it out there. And sure enough, and it could be certain references about meeting certain people. Like I would have a dream about meeting someone in entertainment, and I'm like, that's so weird. I don't know why I had a dream about this person. Literally
Okay.
within a week, a couple weeks down the road, that person
You
will reach
meet.
out to my office or reach out to me through
Oh,
socials,
wow.
and
Okay.
I'm like, oh my god, this is so bizarre. So again, sometimes I have those projections, which there are people that I'm really fascinated by that I'm like, how the heck did you find me? Like,
Yes.
was it really the
Yes.
universe really putting that
Yes.
together? Because
Yes.
I know there's other thousands of other people some of these people can talk to.
Yes.
They want to sit
Yes.
with little old me. You know what I mean? I always tell people
Yeah.
that. And people go like, you're much bigger than what you think. But I still see it, tell
Yeah.
people it's about just
Yes.
being humble, being grounded, but doing your
Yeah.
job. And that's what it's
That's
all about.
yeah. And that's one thing I've always admired about you because I met you through a celebrity. And
Yeah.
so once a celebrity put me in touch with you, I, knew that that person was on the up and up or whatever. So I was like, okay, I believe him. He's in. We're good.
Yeah,
So,
it's so crazy, Toy, because like that's like I did not do any like advertising. I don't do any of that
yes,
nature.
yes.
I don't name drop. I don't put it in my
Right,
on my
right,
website.
right,
I don't talk about it on interviews unless things
right.
have been already shown on television, who I read
Yeah,
for on TV and stuff like that.
yes,
But you know, and you have a big circle too of knowing people in entertainment. And I never
yes,
will name drop and say, hey, I just rep for this person. But as I mentioned
right.
before we got on the show, there are people that sit,
Yes,
come on screen with me, and I'm like,
yes,
I can't believe like this person's having a reading with me. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's super cool. But I think it's about like really like what I'm trying to say is celebrities, people in entertainment, musicians, actors, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Fortune 500 people, they're all individuals looking for healing,
Yes,
looking for guidance. They're
yes,
just like us,
yes,
like everyday
yes,
people. There's nothing special about them. And I mean that with all due respect. Yes, they have a talent
yes.
singing, acting, or, doing theater and so on and so forth, but they're all looking for healing and guidance, just like any of
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like I say, I've always admired about you. You've always had a humble heart.
Thank you. Thank you. It
So
means a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah, you always have been. You've been a great friend, even though we don't talk or
Yeah.
talk that often, and you don't do readings for me. I think I've only had like God, in the 20 something years, we probably only two,
Yeah.
maybe three or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I
And it's interesting because even like with over time when I build a relationship with people, and even though I don't like have a lot of like time like talking with them, things that nature, it's kind of
hmm
like picking up the phone back again, like as if we just talked like
yeah,
from,
yeah,
a year
yeah.
ago or
Like we
whatever. But
didn't miss
yeah,
a
it's
beat.
just like with you, like when we reached
Yeah.
out, it was just like, oh, yeah, like just like we just
What's
talked
up,
yesterday.
AJ? What's up? Yes, exactly.
It's kind of one of
Yes,
those
I love
things,
it.
but
I
I,
love it.
I love
That's
it
a
because
true bonding friendship, I really believe. Yes.
I really believe it. I have a dear friend of mine that we've known each other for well over, I think 20 years or yeah,
Uh-huh.
all
Uh-huh.
over. And it's just kind of like we don't talk all the time. And
Yes.
she lives down the street, she knows my wife. We've known each other for a long time. But when we talk to each other, it's just kind of like we just laugh and we pick up the phone like as we just talked
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
last week. And it's only been like
Yes.
3 months or 6 months down the road. So
Yes.
when moments like that
Yes.
happen, it's part of that process that
Yes.
that
Yes.
friendship is supposed to be there.
Yes.
I really believe like with us, like that friendship will always be there. You know what I mean? No matter what. And
hmm
it becomes difficult too, especially if I know someone really, really well.
Yes.
It makes it difficult for me to read for someone because I know
Okay.
too much information. You know what I
Okay.
mean? If that
I
makes
got
sense.
you.
So
I got
because
you.
it's like, is it really me bringing through that information, or is it spirit, or is it just my ego because I heard something, I know something, or it's third party
Right.
information? So
Right.
it
Right.
becomes very difficult, which is why I really don't read for. Well, I don't read for family, and I don't read for
Okay.
close friends. I don't
Okay.
because it's just like I just know too much, so it makes it very
Right. Right.
difficult. So
Right.
if I'm
Right.
not into someone's life, or we talk all the time, we see each other all the time, it makes it a little bit easier because I don't know much going on in your life, which is a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you do your readings, I know that they take a lot of energy out of you.
Yeah.
So you basically come away from a lot of your readings exhausted, or is it after you do so many that you're really exhausted, or how do you replenish that energy to go on to the next reading?
Yeah, so usually I will give myself, it doesn't always happen because I always usually give myself 30 minutes to 15 minutes in between clients.
Okay.
Oftentimes what tends to happen, which we always stress to clients via Zoom, be on
Okay.
time, be early, do this and do
Right.
that. And
Right.
sometimes they show up 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late. And I'm
Okay.
I'm I'm very strict on this because my time is everything. People will
Yes.
show up like 30 minutes late and I'm already like going in the next appointment, going next, and they get
Yeah.
upset
Yeah.
with me
Yes.
because like I'm not doing the reading. They waited for so long. And I'm like,
Right. Right.
you get your notification, you get all the information. So
Yes.
again,
Yes.
there's a
Yes.
lot of like trial and error with them that I always tell people like my time is important. You're paying for
Yes.
my time,
Yes.
and I'm not here
Yes.
to just kind of wait around here for 20 minutes, a half hour when you
Right.
feel like
Right.
hopping on. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I
Right.
just feel like in some ways that when spirit kind of works in that way, it
Right.
happens the right way. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just like I will just try to do X amount of readings per day
Okay.
because I know that's what I can do. I know that's my quality of work. If I say
Okay.
pack in, say, 10 1 hour readings in one day, it's not going to be my best work. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So if I can put in
Okay.
6, 7, 8, like an 8 hour day, basically, that's
Yes.
probably the max I would do 7 to 8 a day. If they
Okay.
become half hour readings, I'll probably do more because I can break those up in more time. But usually I
Okay.
give myself 15 to 30 minutes breaks in between clients. It doesn't always happen because one,
Okay.
the client runs
Right.
late, or
Uh-huh.
two, I run over in the reading. So it's a little
Okay.
bit of both. But again, it's about having a healthy balance in that process.
Okay. And as we get ready to close our show, is there anything that you would like to add that maybe I didn't ask you, first of all?
Yeah,
Something
I
that you
don't think
think
there's
the
anything I
audience
think I
needs
would
to know?
add. I would just want people to just, kind of like really take care of themselves. Meaning like
Yes.
I know we're kind of like living in a crappy time right now, and especially in those in Los Angeles, those in California,
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
people, look at all the people that experience the loss of, Altadena, Pasadena,
Yes.
the Eaton fires,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
Malibu, all that stuff. I remember
Yes.
waking up and looking out my front window at 3 a.m. when we got an evacuation warning. And
Oh.
I looked out my front window, my living room window, and I see the hills on fire. And I'm like, oh
Oh.
my God. I woke up my wife. I go like, what are we going to do? And the only thing we
Yeah.
could think of was getting our dogs leashes. Like we
Yeah.
wouldn't, what do you do in a moment like that? So not to
Right.
put myself, there are people out there that have more loss, not just physical loss, but loss of
Yes.
family members or
Yes.
pets and so on
Yes.
and so
Yes.
forth in
Yes.
those fires. We're going through a lot. What I want people to do is just take care of the chi, take care of your mental health. I know it's not easy, but focus on
Yes.
yourself. Take care of yourself. Pray to God, pray to a higher being, pray to the universe. Know there's
Yes.
something bigger out there that's there to protect you. I just want people to know that they're not alone. And even though there might be times that they feel like they're alone or they're
Right.
missing a loved one in spirit, they're
Right.
still right there with them because one, love never dies, and two, your loved ones are merely just a thought away.
Right, right, right. So AJ, if someone would like to get into one of your live bookings or a one-on-one or in one of your, your studio audience where you do your group interviews, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah.
What's the minimum amount somebody would have to pay for one of your readings, whether it be, individual or group or whatever, or how would they get
Right.
in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can visit my website. My website is ajbarrera.com. All the information is listed there for upcoming events and private readings and everything. I always
Okay.
try to mention out there, like, I will never reach out to you through social media, meaning like I will never say book a reading with me. So please be aware of
Okay.
scam accounts, fake accounts on social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. I will never message you. Everything's
Okay.
booked through my website specifically. You can
Okay.
go on there for calendars, dates, times, appointments, prices, all that stuff. Same thing with my online events or in-person events. All those are still pocket friendly. There's like 35 $45 onto that as well. So as for private readings, obviously it's a one-on-one thing, so those range in time frames, in the time that you book, from 30 minutes to an hour,
Okay.
and what you choose to do. But all that can be found on the website at ajbarrera.com. I will also be I think the two online reading events for February are sold out, if I'm not mistaken, but I will be
Okay.
in Sacramento, California on Saturday, March 8th. There are tickets available. So if you want to see me live in Sacramento, just go to my
Okay.
website at ajbarrera.com.
Okay, and spell your name again for us so we can make sure that we have the
Yeah,
correct
absolutely.
spelling
It's
for your website.
AJBARRERA.com.
Okay, all right. Well, I would love to say thank you, thank you, thank you again for being a part of my first live
you.
podcasts.
Thank
Wanted to
you.
do something different. And AJ, before we sign off, is there anything that you can read from my vibration? Anything you would like to tell me as we ease on out of the show?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing, there's nothing bad. There's nothing I feel like we need to
Thank
worry
you.
about with you, which is a good thing. You know what I mean? As I
Yes.
mentioned, I bring through everything that comes through, even if it's a quick little reading. But for you, I just feel like there's obviously a lot of changes on the horizon, not just more so like say your own personal life, but spiritually speaking. What I'm being
Okay.
shown to you for me to give you, which kind of is going to be interesting. Like anytime I see a Bible, it represents to believe in like faith, believe in something bigger, as I just mentioned. And I don't know if you're kind of like God, I don't know what's going on here, why this is
Yes.
happening, but I feel like it's kind of like you really need to trust the process of the
Okay.
path that you're on. So if you're kind of questioning like, where do I go from here? I need to start a new
Yes.
beginning. I really believe you're really starting a new chapter, a new beginning for 2025, which is a good thing. I just feel like you have a lot of hesitation, a lot of doubt that how well you see yourself, like how bright you see yourself shining, because I feel like you kind of like your confidence kind of has been dimmed a little bit, where you
Okay.
feel like that you're not shining as bright as you were, like say 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
So I feel like for you, I just want you to make sure that you kind of take those baby steps in that process energetically, knowing
Okay.
that God, spirit, source, your loved ones are working with you. But I just feel like for you, you're kind of like at the same time very impatient. You want to quit. You want it now. You want to get it's not happening
Yes.
the way that you want it, because God, spirit, the universe is saying like, Toy, take little baby steps. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. And I
Okay.
you just want to
Yes.
go on a horse and ride through the sunset.
Yes.
Your time in the process. Take your time and process it. You'll be okay.
Okay, thank you. It's funny you say that because me and my girlfriend were just talking about that today. It's like I'm still trying to learn patience, but I can't help it. I'm used to doing everything, running my life, running my family's life. So when you say patience, I'm like, what is that? I'm used to when I need to get it done, I need to get it done. So that is definitely, you're definitely on the right track with that. I am learning. So again, thank you for that.
Take your baby steps, Toy. Take
Yes,
your baby
thank
steps.
you.
As you
Thank
know,
you.
you have my private number. Please keep it personal. But
Yes,
if you need anything,
yes,
just
yes.
reach out to me, shoot me a text. I may
Yes,
not get
thank
back to you
you. Thank
immediately,
you.
but
Okay.
obviously I will get in contact with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you again for being a part of my Talks with Toy. And I look forward to seeing you in person. You and Jen, let's get
Absolutely.
together sometime, have dinner, lunch, or whatever. But thank you
Absolutely.
again
Definitely
for being
should.
a part of us.
Oh, thank you for
You
having
take,
me, Toy. It's a pleasure.
and it was great listening to you. You take care. Have a
You
good
too.
day and rest your brain.
I will.
Bye,
Thanks for everyone
AJ.
watching.
Thank you. Bye.
PR Connections Radio.